Built the plant in 53, Pike and Portsmouth DOE. U-235 in the groundwater chain, heavy metals drift with rain. They cracked the pipes, they dropped the shell, still denied what tests could tell. Open air, no tent in place, children sick, no public trace. Atomic corruption, filed it safe, never discussed. Paper trail burned to dust, you won't find what you won't trust. Atomic corruption, carried down the river bend, across the state, you can't pretend this don't poison in the end. Kids with cancer, no cause named, dust in schools they never claimed. No swab, no test, no agency, just buried deep bureaucracy. They said too costly to contain, but built a dud dump across the drain. Green up CO2, same report filed, the fish are gone, blame climate change. Atomic corruption, stamped and sealed, they walked away. Still the isotopes don't stray, bound to air, not bound to say. Atomic corruption, they marked 5 counties in the plan, laughed at Kentucky's open land, told us hillbillies won't understand. Technetium track 14 miles, same as plant, same toxic file. Lawrence Livermore drew the lines, but DOE said never mind. Births malformed, no press release, no study done, no state police. The river holds what they won't name. Atomic corruption, open air across the fields. Science told them never healed, but profit hides what power shields. Atomic corruption, it don't fade, it won't forgive, still inside the lives we live. This is not a claim, atomic corruption it is.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the madness that is nuclear. You can call into these shows at 709-740-4076. That's our new number. You can't call me from the United States. I can call you. You can text me from Canada, United States, or call from Canada and text unlimited for United States, Canada. I can call the United States, but if you call me, I get charged for it. So make sure, just say call me, and during the live streams here, for instance, text me and I'll call you. Just send me a number or whatever. Atomic corruption. I put the link to that song in the description for everybody. That's the new number, 709-740-4076. I'll put that up a few times tonight for everybody. That number is a city number. I'm not in the city. Don't ask if you don't want to know. Conventional, geothermal, and nuclear radiological. So should the investors, or fusion small modular reactors, investors 1,000,000 times better off investing in geothermal after Fukushima in particular. And because there is no small modular reactors, there is no micro reactors, there is no fusion reactors. So yes, you're better off investing They got a hate on for me, do they? The censors, people that are censoring the video. The bizarre morons censoring the videos. Nano Nuclear Energy announces a milestone ceremony to begin drilling work with the University of Illinois for its patented Flagship Modular Reactor. They don't have an actual permit. They don't have an application into the regulatory agency. There is no modular reactor, and even if there was, geothermal is, you can just go ahead and build it. You don't have to spend 50 years trying to figure out how to design it. It already exists. A company that aims to power the world for millions of years by digging the deepest holes, quasi-electric, using X-rays to melt the rock and repurpose coal, gas, nuclear, and oil plants into deep geothermal wells, effectively transforming dirty fossil fuel, and dirty nuclear. Nuclear is the dirty fuel, not fossil fuel. Coal, everybody's already acclimated to the emissions from coal. If they don't build the coal plants in your cities, you wouldn't have the issues. They do that so you can have the issues, and then you can beg them for dirty nuclear. And nuclear is always hemorrhaging atoms from the fuel pools into your communities, into your farmlands, where they build the majority of them, the vast majority of them. A company named Quasi-Electric could work on nearly every coal, gas, oil, and nuclear plant on the entire planet. So the nuclear industry tried to snatch that narrative with the small modular reactor narrative, right? But the small modular reactors don't exist. The micro reactors don't exist. The fusion reactors don't exist. And they've been trying for over 50 years. So investing your money in something that got a 50-year fail legacy, what is the point of that? For Microsoft small modular reactors, the new face is power nuclear global revival. There is no new faces. There is no new technology. There is no advanced reactors. Geothermal actually exists. I know that sounds crazy. Why bother with something that already exists? Because it's the right thing to do. And you can back it up with solar panels and wind and storage. Aiming for an annual growth rate of 40%, last year was 660 gigawatts. That's almost double nuclear's capacity right there in 12 months. And so storage actually exists. There's solutions for storing energy. I know that sounds crazy if you're not familiar with the site that you're on. And nobody wants to watch my video tonight. What a coincidence, eh? I know I've only been doing it for over a decade, 5 days a week. And we do field studies and marine expeditions research, so we're pretty boring. Just hang on, bear with me. So there's a couple of different unique ways to store energy. The best one, and it exists in large capacities, let me do this again. So wind and solar is very powerful. Look at what wind produced last year. Imagine what it's going to be this year. They expect a 40% growth. So they're expecting 900 gigawatts, equal to 900 large nuclear power plants. All you need to do is store that, and it's bye-bye everything else. And as luck would have it, I happen to have a few options, and there's a lot more options. So pumped hydro could deliver 100% renewable electricity. They identified 500,000 natural places worldwide to store water. The best one is water, what they call water batteries, where you build 2 aquifers. And water runs down to the bottom one, then you pump it up with excess energy to the top one. I don't like so much like the idea of the ocean. I don't like the idea of freshwater lakes being repurposed for that. When you can just build 2 aquifers and store the water there and use the same water over and over, right? And so extra energy, pump water up the hill with your wind and solar, and when the sun's not shining, you use your reservoir, your battery, so-called. Compressed air energy storage. So this is an amazing one where you compress air, and you actually have big windmills that'll compress air. A large equivalent to pumped hydro power plants in terms of their application, output, and storage capacity. Instead of pumping water from a lower to an upper pond during periods of excess power, ambient air is compressed and stored under pressure in underground caverns, mine shafts. Just dig mine shafts and compress air down there. When electricity is required to pressurize, the air is heated, and you can harvest the energy from the compression. So when you unpack the compressed air, you can use the heat that you already created by compression. And you can store it in sand and store it in lava rocks, which are dirt cheap, and there's an abundance of them. Startup pumped for compressed air wind storage, $54 million, which is nothing for fusion, nothing for micro-reactors, nothing for small modular reactors. They throw that away every day. But here's a working model that's been running for a very long time. China breaks the ground on the world's largest compressed air energy storage, 350 megawatt non-fuel supplementary units with a combined storage capacity of 1.2 cubic million cubic meters of air. And compressed air storage at the Jitan Salt Cavern. 2.8 gigawatts each day. Storage full per charge, more than any other facility in the world. So we know it works on a large scale. And you can do 330 charge-discharge cycles each year for 50 years, unlike idiot batteries. And by leveraging existing salt caverns for energy storage, because salt, you can store 700-800 degree Fahrenheit temperatures there for months. So when you compress air, you take that heat and store it in the salt. And when you're ready to expand the heat, you reclaim it. So it's like a 90% efficiency. Nano nuclear stocks explodes. Could micro-reactor spark a new energy revolution? No, they don't have a license. They don't have the 2 million page application into a regulatory agency, which takes 4 or 5 years. And there's so many facets and dependencies upon, like the small modular reactor that they're allegedly going to build here in Canada, at Darlington, in Ontario, is 240 feet building. It's 50 feet taller than the Fukushima's massive reactors for 1/3 the power. It's idiotic. Calling it a small modular reactor when it's 5 stories bigger than the large, massive reactors, and then calling that a small modular reactor is just a shell game. It's absurd. It's desperation. It's proof they don't have the technology. When you can have geothermal, which actually exists, Dandelion Energy raises $70 million to bring geothermal energy to home. They're making a profit in 2 years instead of 200. That'll reduce cooling and heating costs by up to 50% while saving the planet. Unlike fusion, unlike small modular reactors, unlike micro reactors, none of this exists. So Korea embraces of small modular reactors as a pillar of nuclear policy. A pillar of nuclear policy. It does, but it doesn't exist. So why would you put your eggs in that basket? What does an investor have to gain out of dumping money into this? When they can get their money back in 1 or 2 years by going at geothermal. Sonoma County geothermal energy leader says underground heat is key to help reverse global warming. The world's first portable nuclear reactor factory planned. Like, we've been listening to this for a decade straight. We're going to build it here, we're going to build it there, we're looking for land here, we're going to break ground there, and here we are 10 years later, and it's still they don't have, like, you can do all the talking you want for radiant, but they don't have an application into the regulatory agency. They don't have a design in to the regulatory agency. They don't have a product. Right? They're just floating on investors' money, right? And they're siphoning a majority of that off through the administration, right? Really, I got nobody on my show tonight. What the hell is that all about? Is today a holiday worldwide or something? Or are they just being cowards and hiding me again? I wonder, is the nuclear industry just being the bizarre weirdos that they actually are? Radiant is turning the Manhattan Project's legacy into the future of portable nuclear power. It's turning the Manhattan Project's legacy. So they're talking about using plutonium X oxide fuel, are they? And that process is the dirtiest process in human history. And the emissions from that are 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. And the atomic age, but this is just a computer graphic. This is not real. It doesn't exist. As far as I can tell, it's not going to exist. The smallest modular reactor that you currently have right now is the boiling water reactor X300 in Canada, which is 12 stories below ground, 12 stories above the ground. It's not a small modular reactor. It's a skyscraper. It's a 24-story building, for goodness sakes. Have you seen a 24-story building? Do you really need to see it? Let me bring it up here. Stuffed up, am I? These are 24-story buildings. Does that look like a small modular reactor to you? 24-story building. Is this what a small modular reactor is? Is something bigger than any other reactor on the entire planet is now the small modular reactor. You're going to get 1/3 the power, if you would for a large one. You're going to spend the same amount of money. There it is, a small modular reactor. Woohoo, look at it, it's amazing. So tiny. You could put it on the back of a pickup truck, Dana, and drive it all around the country. Tailgate parties and in sand pits during summer. You can power everybody's phone with that big baby. Like, it's absurd, right? Like me only having 7 people on my show is absurd. Only having 4 votes 20 minutes into my show is absurd. So are small modular reactors. Don't let that stop us. United States scientists reach a long-awaited nuclear fusion breakthrough. Remember the nuclear fusion? I can't find the story. I think it was 2020 or something. The first fusion. They got enough excess power at 300,000 degrees Celsius, 300 million degrees Celsius. And so they got 300 million degree worth of energy back. And then they made excess energy. And that was the big breakthrough. And it was enough to power a 9-volt battery. This was the official story. And shareholders went crazy and they were buying all kinds of shares after reading that story for some reason. Or they were manipulated. At that time, U.S. Energy Secretary had made an announcement on a major scientific breakthrough. This is just as stupid. They said it's the equivalent of boiling 10 kettles of water. That's how much extra energy they got. And so then the question is, at 150 million degrees Celsius, how much water can you boil? That you can quantify that you got an extra 10 kettles of water. Let's put the water at 1 million degrees Celsius. How much water can you boil? Don't try to work that out, you get a bad headache. So imagine 150 million degrees Celsius, close to 300. So how can you quantify that you got extra energy enough that was equal to 10 kettles of water? That's the co-director of the center. Can you imagine what kind of, from the Imperial College in London, no less, the worst humans imaginable. But can you imagine the balls it takes to come out and make that assertion and then expect people to invest billions of dollars into their companies, which is what happened, by the way. Nobody will know. Nobody knows who done that or stupid enough to do it. Apparently somebody was. They were hoping to get the investors so they can sell their cheap stocks and make a whole bunch of money. That's all they were doing. But what it takes to boil 10 kettles of water from 150 million degrees Fahrenheit temperatures, Celsius temperatures. 150 million degrees Celsius. And there was enough energy left over equivalent to boiling 10 kettles of water. And so say you don't drink tea or coffee. You don't use your kettle. You got a kettle, but you don't use it. Month after month after month, you've never used that kettle. It's sat there taking up space on the counter. And a friend come over, they're a big tea drinker, and you boil 10 kettles of water. Do you think that's going to show up on your electricity bill at the end of the month, that you're going to like, that's that 10 kettles of water? That's why my bill is so much more expensive this month than every other month when I didn't boil 10 kettles of water. And then people like this are never questioned. Nobody said like, come on, man, what are you talking about? What are you, stupid or something? No, man, we boiled 10 extra kettles of water. Oh, come on, man, come on. Stop that bullshit. No, honest to goodness, I'm the co-director of the Center at Imperial College for Fusion Studies in London. I wouldn't lie to you, we boiled 10 extra kettles of water. It's a miracle, it's fusion. We done it, we cracked it. Oh, you cracked it, did you? Blah, 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 we cracked it. Does anybody got any comprehension of what that actually... Like, how can you... Am I being ridiculous by saying that it doesn't sound plausible? The plasma needed to reach at least 150 million degrees Celsius, 10 times hotter than the core of the sun, and then you got the energy back that you used to create that temperature, which is equal to New York City for like a half a second or something. All the energy New York uses in half a second. 10 million people, businesses and everything else, and electric buses and whatever. That's how much energy they allegedly used. And then they got that much energy back, and there was enough energy left over. That's right. I'm not lying to you, parent. They're not lying to you. They're going to say, there was enough energy left over. You're not going to believe this, folks. We done it. It's enough to boil 10 kettles of water. That's where I would imagine the entire audience gets up and walks out. Says, this is idiots. These people are idiots. But imagine how sheltered they are their whole life that they would come out in the media and say something like that. Nobody's ever questioned them. They'll be like, come on, now tell us the truth. Nobody's ever done that to them. Because if you've done it to them, they're going to blow up laughing in your face. No, Danny, honest to goodness, Danny, it's enough to boil 10 kettles of water, extra. We pumped that sucker up to 150 million degrees Celsius temperatures. Hey, Siri, what is 150 million degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
270,032 degrees Fahrenheit.
270 million degrees Fahrenheit. 270 million degrees Fahrenheit. They got that energy back that they used to create that heat, and they got an extra amount of energy equal to enough. You're like, there's no way they got that much energy. They ain't enough to boil 10 kettles of water. That's amazing. We're just minutes away from coming up with technology that'll make 11 kettles of water, Dana. You know, if you've done it on a mountain, you probably get 12 kettles of water at higher altitude, right? But wouldn't you love to ask that person that question? Oh, come on, you're kidding me, right? It gets better. Unfortunately, it gets better than that. But no, we need small modular reactors, micro reactors, and fusion. They're right around the corner. You got to throw all your money into it. You got to dig up your great-great-grandpappy, take that jewelry, sell it, and put the money in the stocks for fusion, Dana, and micro-reactors, the small modular reactors, Dana. So at the same time, there's another story come out that got even more stupider. Breakthrough as fusion experiments generates excess energy for the first time. Hallelujah! Woo! I bet you some celebrations. There's some champagne rolling that night. There was a lot of partying that night. They wind that baby up. And it was enough, it was equal to enough equivalent extra energy to 2 Mars chocolate bars. That's right. You got to get fusion, dude. You got to buy stocks in fusion. They pumped it up to 270 million degree Fahrenheit temperatures, and they got enough extra energy back that it's like two Mars chocolate bars, or 6 kettles of water. And we came out on the 13th of December 2022 and mocked them for that statement. We mocked them. We did so. We come out, mocked them. And same thing with here. I don't know which one is stupider, because this one is actually from the Imperial College of London's website itself. This is from the Imperial College. Breakthrough! And then they got the balls to show you that picture. We wound that up. We spent billions of dollars, and we got enough extra energy equal to 2 Mars chocolate bars. Can you imagine being a professor at Imperial College of London and somebody asks you about that? You know, it wasn't me. I don't work in that department. I don't know who they are. They're a bunch of weirdos. See, nuclear industry got a bit of hate on me tonight. I got 5 likes. That's it. Really? A half an hour into my video? I got 5 votes. One of them's down? What the frig? Oh, it's a touchy subject, is it? I thought last night was the touchy subject, and the night before. The last 2 videos are pretty touchy subjects when it comes to the nuclear industry. I got to read that again. I got to be wrong here somewhere. I must be making a mistake. Breakthrough as fusion experiment generates excess energy for the first time, 2022. Not quite 3 years ago. There's the awe-inspiring, mind-blowing whenever I look at it. Like, holy shit, what can it do? What does it do? Nothing. Oh, that's right, it does nothing. It produces enough energy excess energy equal to 2 Mars chocolate bars. I gotta look up pictures of Mars chocolate bars. I don't know what that looks like. That must be pretty cool. I always want to see one. I never see one. Give me a second. I forget to put the keyboards up. Mars bar. I heard that no 2 Mars bars are the same. Mars bars. Where are we two, Dana? Where are you two? Are you doing, huh? There it is. There was enough to equal 2 of those things at 270 million degrees. 270 million degrees. That's proof that fusion is just light years away. It's a Mars bar. How do you equate that? I remember when that story came out and I was set out, I was getting the show ready for that night. I come across that story. And I was laughing so hard I had to go outdoors. I couldn't stay in the house because every time I looked at the computer, I'd blow up laughing. Mars bar. I was a Mars bar once when I was a young man. Not all Mars bars are the same, right? Let me see here. I put my new telephone number back up on the screen for everybody. Wah! Ignore the nuclear proctologist part. That don't matter. We'll get that sorted. 709-740-4076. That's my new number. Now I'm not from that. That's from the big city, that number, but because I'm an idiot, that's the number I ended up with. I'm from the Bay. So 709-740-4076. Just replace your number of Dana on your phones with that number. I can't take phone calls coming in from the United States, but if you text me, I can phone you. So if you want to call into the live shows, that's the number. If you're in the United States, just text me and say, give me a call, and I'll text you, I'll phone you back. I have unlimited calling. It's so stupid, eh? I'll get a better package. I screwed up with that package. I'm going to be stuck with that for 30 days. And then I'll see if I can get the typical package up and running first. To my hotline. Hotline, baby, in the evening. I got some hotline. So it's enough energy for 2 Mars bars. That's how much energy the fusion industry has produced. That's their big wow. There it is. Read it and weep. Nuclear industry is real, man. That's the evidence. They've done it. I don't know how the hell they're going to power 1 million homes and businesses with that kind of energy, but it's equal to 2 chocolate bars. It's equal to 2 chocolate bars. Worth of energy. I could dig that. Let me try that again because... No, there it is. Equivalent to the energy of 2 Mars chocolate bars or enough to boil 6 kettles of water. So they spent billions and billions of dollars. They put thousands of academics and companies together to work for it. They've been at it for 50 plus years. They're working on a design from 1904 because they can't come up with their own designs. And they wound that sucker up, wound that puppy up to 150 million degrees Celsius, 270,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. Man, they were kicking ass. And they got enough extra energy out of this great big sucker for equivalent to 2 chocolate bars. And so they're just a few light years away from powering millions of homes and businesses. So put your money in geothermal because I know it sounds crazy, but geothermal actually exists. Unlike fusion, unlike small modular reactors, unlike micro reactors, unlike advanced nuclear power, geothermal actually exists. It's a stunning revelation, isn't it? They must be pissed at me tonight because I only got 9 likes and 8 votes. One of them is a down vote. Yeah, equal to 2 chocolate bars. That's their fusion. Wow. And they get something like just $60 billion a year going into the fusion industry. There's almost 100 companies. There's the same thing for the small modular reactors, around 100 companies. And they're bringing in about $60 billion a year. And then it's the same thing for the micro reactors. There's a bunch of companies, and they're bringing in huge monies because there's only a few of them. But they are so far from reality. And if they get the fusion reactors, if they finally do make a small so-called, well, the Canadian reactor is 24-story building. 24-story apartment building. That's a skyscraper, not a small modular reactor. That's their micro reactor, is a 24-story building. These idiots, remember this degenerate idiot? Deep isolation. It's a daughter and a father, and they're two real degenerates. They just want to dig boreholes. They want to dig hundreds of thousands of boreholes all over the world and just put nuclear waste down there, and we're rich, have a nice day. That's what they're up to. And they're getting traction. That's even the scariest part. Deep isolation's response. This is the stupidest technology conceivable. Because you've put fuel down in a hole, it melts down at some point, and because there's nothing that you can contain it with, it destroys the integrity of any kind of containment. It doesn't matter what you're using. The gamma shines, the neutron bombardments, the beta rays, the alpha shines, the Wigner effect, the X-rays, will denigrate any steel, any metals, any tungsten, any kind of material at some point in the near future. Once there's any oxygen gets in and displaces the helium that they put in. This is why they were saying there's a shortage on helium. There's no shortage on helium. The nuclear industry needs the helium in order to make some things work. And so children have to do without helium at their birthday parties because the nuclear industry is a scumbag. And so is deep isolation. These are just degenerates. A full-scale, non-radioactive deep borehole. Does anybody know what that means? What the frig is a full-scale, non-radioactive, where you're going to put fuel rods, deep borehole? How is it what do you mean by non-radioactive? What twisted and sadistic little world does these people come from? The world's first full-scale, non-radioactive. I don't have a concept of what non-radioactive actually is. I don't know what that is. Full-scale, non-radioactive, deep borehole. That's probably one of the most confusing statements I've seen in the nuclear industry. You're putting radiation in the borehole, but it's a non-radioactive, deep borehole, full of radiation, of the highest levels of radiation. Full-scale, non-radioactive. I got no concept of what they mean by that. I don't think they do either. They're not legitimate business. They're just idiots who are going to dig a hole in the ground, a small hole. We'll dig a couple of 100,000 small holes and put the nuclear waste everywhere around the planet, and then the whole planet can get sick and die at some point in the future when this technology falls apart. NATO begins a big nuclear exercise next week. Protecting the weapons is a key. This guy's a lunatic, right? This is an absolute lunatic. NATO's a lunatic. It's if you look up NATO, it's 30 militaries. 30 militaries. It's in the military industrial complex. It's a small one compared to UN, which is 195 militaries. Protecting the weapons is a key part of the drill. Well, you can't use the weapons. Why are you posturing? Why are you going over and posturing in other people's continents? An important part of the drill to focus on protecting the weapons before they're ever used. They're desperate for a nuclear war. That's all they ever think about. That's all they ever dream about. That's all they ever posture. They want to move nuclear weapons here, nuclear weapons on this one border, on that one border. So they're like forcing them to launch a nuclear weapon to protect themselves before they get the weapons on their borders. The long-planned steadfast noon exercise started yesterday is taking place amid heightened security around military facilities in Europe due to a series of mysterious drone incidents. Some of them blamed on Russia. Due to a series of mystery, sure, they've been sending drones in everybody's backyard for a bit since George Bush. Right? Some of them blamed on Russia. Some of them blamed on somebody else. Some of them blamed on other people. They got to have a boogeyman. They got Russia, China, and North Korea. And North Korea, Russia, and China got United States, United Kingdom, France. Right? And they're each other's boogeyman, and they justify each country polluting the entire planet. Like, The military complex pollution. Let's just talk about, if you got rid of NATO, you got rid of UN, military industrial complex, 195 militaries, they all got rid of it. Like, as you know right now, that since the government shut down, we've been getting blue skies, no chemtrails. The skies are beautiful blues all day again today. We've never seen that. I've never seen that in the last 3 decades probably, because of the chemtrails, but nonstop. Which means the U.S. military is chemtrailing Canada, by the sounds of it. U.S. military is a major polluter, and greening the military is a false solution. No, you got to get rid of the idiot military. The military is pretty stupid, because you can join it, but you just can't say, well, I'm sick of killing people, I'm quitting. You can't quit. I'll throw you in jail. If I go to McDonald's and get a job and I quit, do they throw me in jail? No. If I go anywhere else and get a job, do they throw me in jail if I quit? No. Do they threaten me and intimidate me and coerce me into killing more people by threatening to put me in jail? No. In any given year, the U.S. military pumps more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere than some countries. In 2017, the Pentagon's total greenhouse gas emissions were greater than the greenhouse gas emissions of Sweden, Denmark, and Portugal. And the U.S. operated more than 800 military, well, the military industrial complex operates more than 800 military installations around the world. Significant investment, carbon-intensive infrastructure, gas-guzzling equipment. So, like those planes that are up there flying around with nuclear weapons 24 hours a day, and are refueled as they're flying. In a 24-hour period, they burn the same amount of fuel as 7 million cars. Because they're at such a high altitude, they're so inefficient on top of that. Requires significant investment in carbon-intensive infrastructure, gas-guzzling equipment, required to power the bases, but also to fuel the non-stop movement of troops and supplies around the world and keep these installations running. Like all the military bases got nuclear, chemical, biological weapons. Jet fuel is the military's most heavily used fuel. Each year, emission produces hundreds of tons of CO2 pollution in the upper atmosphere. Well, CO2 means more trees, more plants, more insects. It's not an issue. It's not going to cause climate change. Climate change is 80 years of emissions from the nuclear industry. The radioactive fallout from all the fuel pools, 1,000 fuel pools worldwide, pulsing energy at the speed of light every second. Each atom is like an invisible snowstorm. You're covering the planet. Each atom is pulsing energy at the speed of light. Gas, oil, and coal emissions don't do that. Just one of the military's jets, the B-52 Stratoforce, consumes as much fuel an hour as the average car driver uses in 7 years. We've done the math on this, actually. It's like 7 million. In one day, it's equal to 7 million cars. The military, so it's like you just flipped that script, right? The military budget in 2020 was 270 times larger than the federal budget for energy efficiency and renewable energy. Well, if you got rid of the military budget and just used the budget for 1 year for geothermal, your problems of energy is over that year. That's the end of it. And then they starve the soldiers. They give them next to nothing for wages, so they're always dependent on the Friday check. They have to spend every check on Friday, which a lot of countries run on minimum wage. Right, because they have to spend their check every Friday, and they can count on that money and the taxes from that money coming in to the government, the so-called the crazy lunatic government, the people that have sold their souls the minute they get the job and make sure you can't have a future instead of just going and picking up garbage like we asked them to do. The United States has a well-known history of fighting wars for oil, well, because the military industrial complex always gets bigger. Right, and so eventually it has to consume everything to exist, and that's what it'll do. That's where it's headed for, and that's what it's already at in many places. La, 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 la. Steadfast Noon will run for about 2 weeks. And do you get any concept of footprint, right, the emissions footprint that they're going to create? 71 aircraft from 14 NATO countries. So they're going to do it with Russia. Russia's going to be forced to do the same thing. They're going to have to step it up. We need to do this because it helps us to make sure that our nuclear deterrent remains as credible and as safe, as secure, and as effective as possible. So you got to do it right on Russia's border, do you? Which is, you know, pretty big hair triggers down there right now. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said, do you know him, that guy Mark Rutte? In a video statement on his social media, that's him, that's the weirdo right there. He's a Dutch politician. He previously served as the Prime Minister of the Netherlands from 2010 to 24. He's a bit of a tyrant, obviously. And leader of the People's Party for Freedom and Democracy. What a mockery that actually is. So, douchebag on top of that. From 2006 to 23, serving a total of 14 years. He's the longest-serving Prime Minister in Dutch history. Yes, so is Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. Look what he done. Literally monsters. The longer they're there, the more monstrous they are. He was born in The Hague, where he should be held for crimes against humanity. He specialized in the arts in university. So he's like Zelensky, right? He's like Zelensky, except he went to university. He wasn't a comedian, but he should have been with the head like he got on his shoulders. In 2016, he was appointed by United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, president of the World Bank Group, Kim, to the high-level panel on water, W-A-T-E-R. You know, water, the most important thing on this planet is water. Water gives us everything. Water is your best friend. Water is your heroes. Water is something you should absolutely covet and respect, and you should worship water. You should adore water. You should be always kind with water. You should always respect water. Water has memories. Water is found throughout the entire solar system, and water, everybody's in contact with water. We all drink it. We all expel it, right? And water is in contact with every species and every human on this planet. And every human and every species, 8 million species that was on the planet pre-Fukushima, owes their existence to the water. You know, the ocean, a glass of water in the ocean, a glass, had 1 billion creatures. It was a soup of life. And that one glass of water was 75 to 100 million phytoplankton, the basis of the food chain, the oxygen chain, the carbon sequestering chain. The very essence of life besides oxygen is water. And you have no, not you in particular, the regular people here, but the average person has no concept of how incredible, and water is the only element on the entire liquid on the planet that exists in all three forms: liquid, solid, and gas. Water can make a seedling push up through pavement. 270 atmospheric, 270 times 14.6 pounds per square inch of pressure. Water cracks large rocks. They drill holes into it, put water there. In the wintertime, the water freezes, and it cracks the rocks. Boulders. United Nations should never be allowed to look at water, let alone try to control it like they're doing right there. And he was in that position. And look who he's shaking hands with, of all people. Following his departure from the national politics, he succeeded Jens Stoltenberg for NATO, military-industrial complex. Remember this crazy lunatic? The Secretary General of NATO on the 1st of October 2024 during a ceremonial handover at NATO's headquarters, which is the most bizarre statement imaginable, in Brussels. Look at this wicked, evil witch that he's Robin Albers would say that more than 600,000 Russian soldiers were killed or wounded during the war against Ukraine in 2024. That's over 1 million now. And the majority of these were jacked off the street by the cruelest humans imaginable, put into a uniform, given a gun with no training, and stuck out for drones to chase down and blow up, that were built at a rate of 400,000 a month, or $1 million a month for 400,000, $400 each. And that was Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google. You know, the Google, don't be evil Google, that Google. He's single with no children. Yeah. Well, he had a girlfriend, but he beat the shit out of her so many times. The hospital wouldn't let her go with him anymore. He drives a Saab 9.3 Estate. So he's you know, somebody in that kind of position, right? You can be sure that thing is bulletproof and bomb-proof. Before moving to Brussels in 2024, following his appointment as Secretary General of NATO, he lived in an apartment with his cat, which is cool, right? That's pretty cool. Nuclear operator found not criminally responsible for leaking power plant vulnerabilities on YouTube. So this is really interesting. Not criminally responsible, which reminds me of another guy that wasn't criminally responsible. I'll come back to that story in a second. There's another guy involved with nuclear that was found, never got a jail term, wasn't criminally responsible. Does anybody know what that story is? Let me do some looking here. I'll find it. It's a pretty cool story. It's a pretty frightening story, actually. Oh, there it is. It's just luck that I found it. Yeah, this is a strange story. Here we go. Protester and ex-candidate to plead guilty to seeking nuclear material but won't get a prison under the deal. He was charged under the Terrorist Act, trying to get his hands on nuclear material. And he said he wanted to poison himself so the government would get blamed for it. But of course, that's not true either. His lawyers said Ryan was trying to get it to kill himself, make it appear he was killed by the government, using a substance that was difficult for anyone but the government to get their hands on. But their lawyer, Bugney and Myers, filed a series of motions to dismiss the indictment of terrorism, nuclear terrorism, asserting that the nuclear terrorism charge under which he was charged is unconstitutional. You know why it's unconstitutional? Because the government doesn't have the authority to criminalize poisoning with radioactive substances. And of course, the government went along with it because they didn't want a precedence. So only the non-regulatory commission, the nuclear industry, has the authority to make it illegal to poison you with radiation, and there's zero possibility they're going to do that. And they're hand-picked by each administration. So the reason they're poisoning your loved ones in the hospitals, murdering your loved ones, this is murder, but it's not murder because it's not illegal to poison you with radiation because Congress doesn't. Congress has the Senate and the Diets, like for Japan or whatever, the Senate and the parliaments, like here in Canada, don't have the authorities, which is plausible deniability, see, of the crime against humanity that should be leveled against this industry for these atrocious betrayals, because Congress lacks the authority to criminalize poisoning with radioactive substances. So the reason they're allowed to kill your loved ones in hospitals and with emissions from the 1,000 fuel pools at the nuclear power plants worldwide that are surrounded by farms, all by accident, of course, a total accident, that every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms as far as you can see from a satellite. Because Congress lacks the authority to criminalize. Now, Congress has the authority to make 3,000 chemicals illegal, and they do. But the 1,000 anthropogenic man-made radioactive isotopes, they don't have the authority to do that one. Which, to the nuclear industry, is like, whew, we wouldn't be able to murder them in the hospital if that was true. Because if it was illegal to kill you with radiation, they wouldn't be able to do it to your loved ones, and your friends and your families, and your community, people in your communities, and people around the world. They wouldn't be allowed to poison them and radiate with these experiments in hospitals. Every radiation therapy is an actual experiment. Right? It's called therapy, but they know it's an experiment. And that's why they've done millions of studies on the victims. They've studied, like they built Nagasaki, Hiroshima back on the bomb craters in order to deny them ability to say they got sick. Because, no, come, you got to live back here. And our scientists from North America, United States, and France, and Canada, and America are going to study you and your loved ones for decades. And that's what they've been doing now for 70 years, studying the victims. And they're not looking for internal exposure, they're only looking at external exposures. Like, it's so corrupt, it's so sadistic and twisted and demented, it just doesn't seem like it's real. But the implications of what I just said are catastrophic for billions of people. Nuclear operator found not criminally responsible for leaking a power plant vulnerabilities on YouTube. He said he was crazy. But that's the end of the story. Well, what did he leak under? Well, we'll never know. The video was taken down immediately. A 38-year-old Ontario man who faced a rare charge under the Canada's state secret law of leaking sensitive information. Well, they gave me 6 gag orders at one time, for goodness sakes. To a foreign entity or a terrorist group is found not criminally responsible after he posted a YouTube video that disclosed nuclear power plant vulnerabilities and provided instructions on how to cause damage. All you do is cut off external power. They're dependent on external power. The whole nuclear industry, what the person said, according to the transcript, you can't use this energy source, it's hopeless. So what they done, they put him in a loony bin rather than have him out there telling the truth. An expert, a degenerate, I should say, from the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, confirmed that the YouTube video included at least one vulnerability of a Canadian nuclear disease factory that was classified as secret. Yeah, probably the tritium releases. They can't contain it, right? It's a genocide machine. Each reactor in Canada and worldwide is a genocide machine. The fuel pools are 100% hemorrhaging the atoms from the fuel cores that are in the fuel pools. You can't contain it. La 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 la. How we doing tonight? We're getting beat up pretty good tonight. I got 13 votes, 13 likes, 14 viewers. I actually got, for every viewer, I got a like. Yeah, there's only 13 of them, but I got a like from every viewer. That's pretty darn good. That's motivation for me. I'm pretty motivated by that. I busted up. Must be getting old. I got hurt when I was 35. I was devastated when I was 35. So the fact that I can even sit up on my own is a bit of a miracle. And it is what it is, you know. It took me 10 years to stand on my own 2 feet. Then it took me another 5 years in a wheelchair to learn to walk again, and I can't walk very far. It was an absurd amount of dedication to get to that point. I just wanted to get the home care out of my home, get my home back to myself where I had some peace and quiet, a little bit of peace and quiet before I leave this world. Ontario Power Generation said it believed information in the video would allow an adversary to optimize an attack on a nuclear disease factory in Canada. Well, the nuclear plants in Canada are attacking millions of people every day, but you're not allowed to attack them back. You're not allowed to stop them. It's not illegal to poison you, so they go ahead and poison you. If it was illegal to poison you, they couldn't have a nuclear industry. The nuclear industry is dead. Musali had worked as a nuclear operator since 2015, so 9 years or something. He was a 38-year-old man. So he started working when he was like 29 years old. Operator, like a nuclear operator doesn't have to get a degree. They get trained on the job for 4 years. And the reason being is a nuclear scientist doesn't want to work at these disease factories. Just the low IQ ones will work there. The judge ordered him held in custody until he spot opened at a specialized provincial mental health facility for him. They don't want to put him in the prison population. That's hilarious. A former Pickering nuclear operator was found not criminally responsible for a dangerous live stream. How can anybody tolerate the media for 2 seconds? How does that work? International Atomic Energy Agency profile. Champion food safety through nuclear science. So they radiate your food that's coming into your country. So they kill all the good bacteria and nutrients in the food by radiating it. And so you end up eating radioactive, contaminated food that's radioactive. It's a disgusting, the industry is disgusting. They have over 1,000 ways now of irradiating you legally, because it's not illegal to radiate you. It's not illegal to poison you. This is why they're able to get away with all this. Congress doesn't have the authority. They have the authority to make 3,000 chemicals illegal to poison you, but not anthropogenic man-made radiation. Only the non-regulatory agencies are allowed to do that, and they're appointed for each administration. So, why would you let that happen? Because you don't know about it, right? The average person. If the large portion of the population knew about that, that would end right away. And so would the nuclear industry by proxy. Nuclear industry has to lie about every facet of the nuclear industry just to exist for a day. And ultimately, it has to consume all the resources on the planet, particularly water. The nuclear industry uses 6,450,000 tons of water for each reactor in a day. It's equal to a row of traffic around the entire planet of 1-ton pickup trucks, with 1,000 liters in the back of each 1-ton pickup truck. Bumper to bumper, not like separated, but bumper to bumper. And you got to dump that in the reactor every 24 hours. So every 24 hours you got to dump the equivalent of 4,450,000 1-ton pickup trucks of water. And then each glass of the water would have 1 billion creatures in it, eggs and larvae and small fries and everything else. They got to be destroyed in order for nuclear to produce power so you can save the planet. And you got over 400 disease factories like that doing it worldwide. And you got 1,000 fuel pools full of the reactor cores, 6, 7, 8, 9 reactor cores in a pool. They're splitting atoms for each of them for 1 million homes and businesses. So if you got 4 million, if you got 5 reactor cores in a fuel pool, that's 5 million homes and businesses worth of isotopes being released into the environment up to tall, skinny stacks each day. And it never goes away, it never stops pulsing energy every second. Gas, oil, and coal emissions, carbon, that's more puppies, more babies, more people, more trees, more plants, more fruits, more insects, more life, more fish, more whales. Nuclear kills it all. Radioactive fallout kills everything. It attacks everything with replicating cells. That's why I get the big views, see? Right? That's why I kick ass. I got 13 viewers. Woohoo! Wow, I've been waiting my whole life for that many people. I do this 5 days a week because I can get 12 people come on my show. That's amazing. In my head, I'm famous. So the radioactive fallout covers the whole planet. Food is emotional. Food sustains life. So let's poison the shit out of it and give it to them and see what happens. And look at her. She doesn't even know, or she does. reflecting on our career journey and work at the degenerate, disgusting, parasitic International Atomic Energy Agency. The agency's mission of Atoms for Peace, well, there's no such thing as atoms for peace. If you get a single anthropogenic man-made atom in your body attacks it for the rest of your life with white blood cells and builds a tumor around it, eventually. But every second that atom is pulsing energy at the speed of light is wrecking chromosomes, DNA cells. Your body has to attack that with white blood cells also and try to repair the damage every second. It can't keep up with that. So there's no peace when you have an anthropogenic man-made atom in your body. Your body's under siege for the rest of your life. And eventually it gets a tumor that metastasizes. It goes everywhere else. They'll put you in the hospital and say, well, we got some radiation. We can cure you it. Just sign this piece of paper saying you can't sue us. Dear doctor. Today, in her role as head of the joint FAO-IAEA Food Safety Control Laboratory in Austria, that's the scariest statement conceivable right there. The next generation of women nuclear professionals by offering scholarships for master's degree in nuclear-related fields. So the misery machine has to keep ticking, so they're always recruiting. This industry is evil. There's no maybes. There's no middle grounds in it. This industry is the epitome of evil. It only knows evil. It knows nothing else. It can't coexist with any organisms, any species on the entire planet. It's evil. Evil is what evil is. The nuclear industry is evil. So my number is blocked, is it? Really? Well, you can text me. I'll call you back. I'll put up my number again for you. My new number. That's pretty heartbreaking. My new number is 709-740-4076. And you can't call me from the States. You have to text me, and I'll call you back. I can call you, unlimited call to the States, but I have to pay for any calls from the States. And you know me, I'm happy to call. I'm happy to call you back. Hello. Yeah, 740-4076. Oh, Kevin was here. Yeah, it looks like my video is blocked by YouTube tonight, that's for sure. Wow. 13 volts, 13 likes, hour and 8 minutes in. I won't be surprised if they're going to arrest me or something. Usually when you do stuff like this, it means I'm getting arrested. Protesters in Belgium are working to keep nuclear power as plant operators move to shut a reactor down. After years of protests, environmentalists are fighting to save nuclear plants. No, they're not. This is the pro-nuclear disguised as environmentalists. Why would an environmentalist want to save a disease factory for goodness sakes? It was pulled off by activists to save the reactors. These are not activists, for God's sakes. Micro-reactor to be tested in space ocean satellite. This is a bizarre story. Space Ocean Corporation. They're in tight with the government, by the way. Space Ocean Corporation, a leader in orbital logistics and space resource delivery. When I looked at them, I can't find anything they accomplished. So how can they be a leader? Has entered into a letter of intent with Space Nuclear Power Corporation, a memorandum of understanding, which are always worthless. It's just posturing to try to manipulate investors into investing into an industry that doesn't even exist. Under the terms of the letter of intent, Texas-based Space Ocean, there's no ocean in Texas, I guess. I can't remember. Maybe there is, I can't remember. Intends to test space nuclear power, space nukes, 10 kilowatt nuclear reactor aboard a satellite. A 10 kilowatt. Andrew Phelps, CEO of Space Nukes, Space Oceans, Space News, is commercializing a kilo-power space fission reactor technology under a license from Los Alamos National Laboratory. Well, I know this comes as a shock to everybody. Los Alamos National Laboratory can't license reactors. That's for the NRC. Right, so they wrote the story to sound like this is legit, but it's not. They're trying to get people to invest into it, right? And so they can sell their shares they got for dirt cheap and steal the unsuspecting investors' profits. CEO of Space Ocean, this collaboration gives us the opportunity to pair out fluid logistics, delivery infrastructure with nuclear technology that can scale, sustain, energize orbital and planetary missions. So you're going to spend a massive fortune doing it, and you're not gonna put 2 seconds into geothermal. You're gonna trick the whole planet into investing in fusion, small modular reactors, and micro reactors. You're not gonna put a nickel into geothermal, which exists and will solve all your problems. How realistic is the nuclear threat in Netflix, A House of Dynamite? And when you see these pictures of these morons that write the story, you lose faith, right? Because they always look the same, these zombies. Catherine Bigelow's new movie, A Nuclear Missile, is headed for the United States. But what can we really do to defend ourselves against a nuclear threat? This expert has a sobering answer. This expert. These people are actually lunatics, eh? You put them on a studio set to shoot a 1 hour or 2 hour movie, and now they're gods. Everybody has to worship them forever and ever and ever. They're better than everybody. Forever and ever and ever. Their shit don't stink. The end of the world is not hypothetical. So they got to put that out there. If a nuclear weapon is headed towards the United States, there are few defensive options. You can set up a nuclear weapon, blow it up, cover the planet in radioactive fallout, but you've been doing that for 80 years. You got 1,000 fuel pools, each of them doing that every day. Estimated that a nuclear strike on the United States will likely kill 3/4 of the U.S. population. No, we don't care about that. Can you cash a check next Friday? That's what you're worried about, right? Because if you can't cash a check next Friday, they're not likely to do it. A greater number of nuclear threats between the United States, Russia, China, and now various non-state actors. It's impossible to like these people. The likelihood of a single nuclear device deployed, not by another country, by a non-state actor is the most probable risk. They're just unlikable people, eh? United Kingdom consultations begins on the Rolls-Royce small modular reactor design. Consultation begins under a design which has not gone through a regulatory process. They don't have the full application or even partial application into the regulatory agencies. These are enormous, time-consuming, resource-intensive material. You're talking about 2 million pieces of paper. The regulatory agency has to hire 400 or 500 experts, physicists, and scientists to go through that, right, and to come to a consensus on that, all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, and that the design is plausible. You get corrections, asked to do corrections for the design. They get resubmitted back to the company. The company will try to meet the basic standards. They need the reactors so they can have the fuel for nuclear weapons forever and ever and ever. Consultation, eh? Nuclear Industry Association's application for regulatory justification for the Rolls-Royce small modular reactor design, and then they show you this fucking idiot. This is the same thing they said, but this is the same kind of picture they show for the Canadian small modular reactor. And now we know it's a 24-story building, 240-foot building, 12 stories on the ground, 12 stories above the ground. It looks nothing like this. It's built at a nuclear disease factory on top of that. It's not built out in this pristine environment. It's not covered, surrounded by beautiful aesthetics. It's a big, stupid disease factor like the rest of the nuclear industry. And it's only producing 1/3 of what a large reactor would do. That's smaller than the massive small modular reactor that they're going to build. And look at this Rolls-Royce small modular reactor. Is not small. It's the same size as a lot of reactors worldwide, 470 megawatts. Based on a small pressurized water reactor. Like there's lots of them out there around 500 megawatts, which are considered large reactors. So they're going to call it a small modular reactor, but build a conventional large reactor. Because, they can't build a small modular reactor, right? Because stupid is the norm in the nuclear industry. Not until the nuclear industry, who knows for sure. 470 megawatt design. In June this year, Rolls-Royce small modular reactor was selected as UK government's preferred technology for the country. No, it was selected because there is no small modular reactors, and that one's not a small modular reactor. That's a large reactor. That's almost 500 megawatts. And they're going to have to burn plutonium mixed oxide fuel just to make it even plausible. What is it? It's called the Ponzi scheme. You look it up on Wikipedia, Ponzi scheme, and it should be a picture of a fake small modular reactor. The first small modular reactor project. In other words, they don't have small modular reactors. Like Canada, they're going to call it a small modular reactor, but it's a massive reactor. There is no small modular reactors. So if you're an investor, don't put your money into the fusion or small modular reactors or micro reactors. Put it into geothermal, something that actually exists, and you're going to start making money back within a year or two. That sounds way better than putting your money there and leaving it there, or having the industry steal it on you 2 weeks later, like they've been doing post-Fukushima. Right, the pump and dump. Because that's all you're seeing with the nuclear industry right now, with pump and dump. Right, the 14 biggest financial institutions since Conference of Parties, 28. 14 biggest financial institutions are buying shares in small modular reactor companies like NuScale and even ultra-safe nuclear, of course, which went bankrupt by design. So that Nano and the rest of them can get their hands on the patents, so they would have some assets, because they don't have any assets outside of patents. Which is not you can't. The only way you can make money if they sell the patent. So if you invest in it, you got to pray they're going to sell some of the patents, so you can make some revenue. It's stupid to invest in an industry with a zero history of profit. Its profit is based upon stealing it from the unsuspecting investors. So the 14 biggest financial institutions will buy 6-7 million shares, right? 2 or 3 of them in this company and 2 or 3 in that company. So you get 10, 15, 20 million shares. To the investor, that looks really good all of a sudden. You see the shares going up. So they're earning money from factories and everything. They worked all their life. They're trying to grow their money a little bit. 2 weeks later, the banks are like, oh, well, if I sell my shares now, I can make a nice tidy profit. And the small investor who worked hard for their money all their life is going to panic and sell their shares at a loss. And that's what they've been doing. Particularly, like, say, the last 6 years when this hype started. This hype started at the same time Quatsi Electric showed up and said they're going to repurpose gas, oil, and coal plants with geothermal. Nuclear said, well, we can do that with small modular reactors. And we called every one of them out there that made that claim. We called them on it. It's a small modular reactor. No, it's not. It's 470 megawatts. It's a little big reactor. That's a massive reactor. It's huge, like a 24-story building, like the Canadian reactors. Putting small modular reactor there is what, a tax break or something? And there's no one to hold them accountable because the industry is so corrupt, and it's always been corrupt for 80 years. Nemo Workshop moves the dial on nuclear energy applications at sea. Oh, sure, let's get a whole bunch of floating Chernobyls out there. That can't go wrong. Like the Russian alleged small modular reactor, which is a 15-story barge, it's massive. Who knows how deep it is underwater? They got fuel pools on the reactor, on the barge. They just changed the fuel, right, for the 2 reactors they got on that barge. And he said he put it in a storage room. Well, they don't store fuel in the storage room. It stores underwater. So it's in a fuel pool. If it's in a fuel pool, it's boiling off about 120,000 liters into the local environment, which ends up going around the planet of radioactive fallout, which means it's no longer in containment, it's splitting atoms for millions of years. But we cover many stories where they'll claim, yeah, Russia got small modular reactors, Dana. Well, no, they don't. They're not small, they're massive. Unlimited zero emission power ports, and a way to produce zero emission fuel. Again, this is absurd. It's the most resource intensive, most emission intensive industry in human history. And there's nothing on the planet with an autoimmune trigger to defend against the emissions. It attacks everything with replicating cells. Unlimited zero emissions. Oh, zero emissions. I guess if you say it enough times, you can get the unsuspecting investors to invest in it. Zero. And look at all these zeros. Look at these stupid morons. These shit for brains. These meatheads. Oh, look at us. We make a fortune. We can dress to a T. All you got to do is trust us. So I got 13 viewers, 14 likes, 14 votes. I'm living large. Living large. So how did I do last month? I done a bit better than I done the month before. The month before I went backwards 4 subscribers. Environmentalist Dana Durnford, here's how your channel did last month. They must be laughing their guts out when they send me this stuff. The most watched video is whales, birds, insects are going extinct. Don't worry, I never got very many views. 18 uploads last month. I was sick quite a bit last month, so I still made up for it by doing extra shows, right? Each week in order to try to get back up to schedule. I got 2 new subscribers. Thank you so much, whoever you are. I hope you're not pro-nuclear and just there just so you can torture me. I had a total view of 4,443 views. Wow. That's pretty crazy. The industry is going to learn to fear me, I can tell you what. I'm moving the dial. I had 2 new subscribers. I lost 4. I had 0 new ones the month before and lost 4. Average used to get 10 or 12 a month, right? Last month, this month I'm probably going to have none. This month I'll be disposed of by the nuclear industry, I guess. 4,443 total views. Blah 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 blah. Shout out to James Lucid, who I don't know how he's doing it, but he done it. He donated another $400, and I wish other people would fill in the gap. We are not in a good position. Got no views. We can't fund the whole operation. We can't fix the equipment from the research expeditions. And since they screwed me over, they managed to screw me out of my pension. It's been a struggle just to survive. Any money we raise is catch-up time for bills. I'm trying to keep the operation afloat. I got a whole bunch of oil changes I got to do this week. It's going to be a few $100, just to make sure the equipment doesn't go south on me. I can't do all of it, but I'll do some of it. And you got to do the oil change. You got to do the filter at the same time, obviously. But I might have to wait till spring to do it. Who knows? Coal to nuclear, supporting a clean energy. Coal to nuclear, right? So remember what Quatsi Electric was going to do. Here they are again. No less than the International Atomic Energy Agency. Going to support a clean energy. Because you want you to think that coal is the issue. Coal is why the world's falling apart. Not 80 years of emissions from 1,000 fuel pools, all the dumping, all the nuclear meltdowns, all the cover-ups. Nuclear energy stands as an essential pillar for delivering affordable, low-carbon. And they use that everywhere. You will never read a story where it doesn't call nuclear low-carbon. It'll never happen. It's desperation, but they haven't convinced anybody. The same gigawatts today as they had in the 90s. There's no nuclear renaissance. There's not going to be a nuclear renaissance. There is a renewable renaissance every year. It's massive increases. I mean, last year was 660 gigawatts just to solar alone, not counting everything else. They're expecting a 40% growth, despite the fact that the prices of commodity are skyrocketing because of the staged war in Ukraine and Russia, which was about creating inflation worldwide. And I actually done a video when the war started, the first day of the war. I said, holy shit, here comes inflation, folks. Worldwide, several initiatives are identifying nuclear as a viable option to replace aging coal plants. No, that's the industry trying to make itself relevant. That's all that is. The International Atomic Energy Agency Coal to Nuclear Report, the United Nations Coal to Nuclear Report. Look, anything nuclear can do, geothermal will get the job done right away. Not 15 years later, 20 years later, not at the expense of millions of species. Like coal emissions, wherever it lands, as long as you don't put it in the sea like any other polluting technology, it'll assimilate itself back into the ecosystem. Everything on the planet is already acclimated to the emissions, those types of emissions. But the man-made emissions, we don't have a species on the planet that is acclimated to that or has an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. Right? Nuclear is the Achilles heel of 8 million species and the water on our planet, particularly the water on our planet. Water affects every species, see? So if you contaminate the water, you'll get every species. Gas, oil, and coal emissions don't travel very far, 10, 15, 20 miles. Nuclear covers the whole planet in 20 days, forever and ever and ever, pulsing energy at the speed of light forever and ever and ever. Russia says it will swiftly carry out a nuclear test if the U.S. does the same. So they have no control over themselves, eh? Oh, we'll pollute the whole planet, we don't care. We're a nuclear industry, we're better than everybody. It's better to exterminate everybody than the nuclear industry get a single black eye. A risky situation, Zapatophilia nuclear disease factory is in critical state. No, it's not. It's got tons of power. It's got like 10 generators. It's not isolated. They can drive in there with fuel, and they do. The media just looking for different ways to keep you terrified. And GVH, Samsung, C&T form Boiling Water Reactor 300 Strategic Alliance. This is a Canadian boiling water reactor. X, small modular reactor that's 24 stories tall. So stupid. How can you call it a small modular reactor, you weirdos? Let me bring it up for you. This is an educational program sometimes. La 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 la. Oh, look what have it, there it is. Let me see here. Hang on. This is fun. Yeah. So, will New Brunswick choose a small modular nuclear reactor that's not small, among other problems? They're hoping to build it at the Darlington site on Lake Ontario, one of the biggest aquifers on the planet for fresh water. And consider a building that soars 35 meters upwards and 38 meters below the ground. 10 stories up, 11 stories down, 73 meters. How is that a small modular reactor? It's the tallest building in New Brunswick. How is that small? How can you call it small modular reactors? So they want to build these massive small modular reactors outside of North America. These are massive, non-small reactors. These are bigger than Fukushima reactors. There's some pretty hideous censorship on me tonight. Holy shit. That could usually only means one thing. And it's not good, particularly for me. With this, it's still not going to sway me. So Japan has some small modular reactors. Here's one of them right there to your left. Look, that's a small modular reactor. Except there's no reactor. It's not small. It's small, but there's no
is on top
modular
of what
reactor.
used to be reactor building number 4. The whole of this building was blown apart by a huge explosion.
We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was...
They're at the top of that building to your left, all of these people. This is the industry. This is what the industry does. It's lunatics. They covered the whole planet with radioactive fallout, but don't worry because they're at the buildings, nothing got out. So the official story is nothing got out. And here's all your big media, CBS, BBC, CNN, ABC Australia. The biggest media, each of the continents, claiming that they're at the top of a building that doesn't even exist. So don't worry about the journalists. Think about the fact that it took the media that owns those companies for that to work, and that every university and every media on the planet had to participate in that law for that law to work. It's the same thing for the bizarre small modular reactors. For the lunatic small modular reactors. So these buildings, 55 countries banned the food for 14 prefectures. Canada's not one of them, of course. Canada removed all restrictions after 93 days. So June the 14th, 2011, Canada lifted all restrictions. Well, 55 countries banned it from 14 prefectures, which is half the country. So Japan couldn't ship the most radioactive food anywhere, only to your friends and families and loved ones in Canada. Back to that story of the boiling water reactors in Canada. Canada is run by the nuclear industry, right? And Canada just enacted a new law, or they're about to, and so they'll be getting rid of me soon, I'm pretty sure. That's probably why the new law was created in the first place. You can't have a nuclear renaissance and someone like us out there telling the truth, right? So I'm suspecting they're going to come for me. And the new law is they can take my phone away from me, my internet away from me. I can't tell you they done that. It's illegal. I'll go to jail if I tell you. And then they can control every facet of my life after that. Darlington site in Canada, well, if he does it to me, I'm leaving the country, right? They're not going to keep me here. I'm leaving the country. I'll go somewhere else as a refugee, which I already am in my own country, because the world won't stand up against the nuclear industry. And now they're so powerful that YouTube, I get 14 views, 14 viewers, 14 votes, some of them down, 14 likes. They're so powerful that they control YouTube. You got to appreciate how long I've been doing what I'm doing here, right? And if you notice the idiot morons on YouTube with millions of subscribers, and I mean, they'll get 40,000 comments on each shitty video they put out, and there'll be tens of thousands of dollars every day donated to them. Right, because they're the distraction, right? So good people are not allowed to exist because the nuclear industry is not good, and it can't exist if the truth is known. Nano nuclear stocks fall after announcing a $400 million private placement. Don't worry, they're back up again for a little while. They'll be back down in about 2 weeks after they steal the unsuspecting investors' money to pump and dump that they've been doing now since Fukushima. Stocks tumbled 9% on Wednesday after they announced a $400 million private placement of common stocks. 8 million shares in an oversubscribed offering. Nano, which doesn't have a product, doesn't have a reactor, doesn't have an application into the regulatory agency for a reactor license, they don't have land, they don't have this, they don't have that, they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have a supply chain, they don't have nothing. They're put on a pedestal. And they rake in so much money every 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then they do the dump and steal the unsuspecting investors' money, and then they start over again a week later, and then 3, 4 weeks later, the whole cycle repeats. They've been doing this since they existed. And regulatory licensing. And they need money for the regulatory license. They all say it, but they never do it. Russian nuclear plants, the latest to suffer war-inflicted damage. Well, Russia had shot down a Ukraine drone. The Ukraine drone was flying over a nuclear plant and it hit the cooling water tower. Right? But it's not, there's no infrastructure. But it makes good news. It makes salacious news. Renovated, degenerate International Atomic Energy Agency's labs are opened. The stupid shifterbrain inaugurated. So they took Marie Curie and uses her name as a scholarship. On the 7th of October, really, IAEA, that's the day you choose. Began in 2014, upgrade the laboratories in Stretton. The age, so 2014 it began, so it took 11 years. And you have an endless amount of money from 195 countries. You got, like Japan alone donates at any given time at least $19 million. And they donate multiple times a year to the International Atomic Energy Agency. Has so much money. Their job is to promote. They're a cult, right? Nuclear industry is a cult. Once a cult, always a cult. We're just rocking it tonight. Well, this is really unusual to see that small of a number. My last 2 videos were actually really good videos. I've calmed down over the years. I'm not quite the dark case that I used to be. Huge blaze rips through factories making Russia's nuclear equipment. The British media, Daily Express US, who was owned by British, and then owned by Rupert Murdoch, I think. The factory employs 2,000 workers situated 1,200 miles, 2,000 kilometers east of the conflict zone, beyond the range of direct Ukraine strikes. Fire burns at the turbine plant for Russia's nuclear weapons. No, that's NATO weapons done that. Ukraine is a proxy war, right, for NATO. That's all Ukraine is. NATO, who can only exist by being in a war. If there's no war, NATO got no right to exist, right? So NATO can only be relevant and exist if there's a war. Because what's the point of 30 militaries? And of course, they need a war to get rid of the old weapons so they can buy new weapons from the military-industrial complex, which runs your whole planet. So you got to have wars. Because otherwise, how are you going to get rid of the old weapons and need to buy new weapons, right? Come on, use your heads. Nuclear power, both conventional and modular, is making a comeback. Well, how's it going to make a comeback when it doesn't even exist? How does that work? Right, but the person at 999,999 of the million people that have reached that story doesn't know that difference. Because the industry is a prolific liar. And they're really good at it. They control your medias and your universities. And so only the sickest, twisted, demented students will get a job. If you're the sick and warped and demented student with a degree, you can get a job. You will get a job with the nuclear industry one way or another. With the medias that support the nuclear industry and the military-industrial complexes. Hey, oh, hey, oh. What do you do with a drunken sailor? Put him in a room with a bunch of pro-nuclear so we can kick the shit out of him. All of them. La 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 la. See, he's not dumb. That's his disguise because he's the mastermind. Like, I've met the pro-nuclear community, and I got to tell you, man, my goodness, you felt like you were in a twilight zone. No, I'm sorry. You knew you were in the twilight zone. These are strange people at best on a great day, and the best of their days. Bear with me here. Lordy, lordy, lordy. Oh, sweet. Wow. James put a really interesting looking video. Man, his graphics are just absurd. Like there's a lot of stuff I can't even visualize, and you're watching his videos, and like it makes sense, right? You're like, holy shit. Because you can't explain some stuff. You need to visually see it in particular, right? And he's putting, a lot of his videos, he's writing about a certain story, and he's telling the story in the form of a sonnet, of a song, or a sonnet being a poem. And he put the music, right? And we started off the night with one of his videos, songs, Nuclear Corruption. I put a link in the... If you're in the chat room later, if you're trying to find a chat room, it won't show up for 12 hours, that link. It'll be under the video, though, once I get around to it after the show tonight. I'll put it in the comment section because it doesn't show up. My chat room won't show up 12, 14 hours later. Among many other weird, bizarre things happen. Let me see what I got down here now. I'm tickled to have a phone back up and running. It's always a struggle. Oh, James says, something that I said last night. I said, it's pretty cool, James. Bless your heart, buddy. We're going to watch that right now, so we're going to put you on the spot. Just kidding. Well, that's it for Dana tonight. We got a great new video from James Lucid on YouTube. And there I am. Another day where I just couldn't do anything besides the obvious. It was a long time getting the start motor on my brain to work again today. We got a show in. That's all that matters. That's a win. We got censored. Holy shit. I got brutalized on the numbers tonight. I bet you I'll have like 23 views when this video is over or something like that. I don't care. I'm doing the show anyway. The story's got to be told. So get your votes in our fusion, small modular reactor, micro reactor investors. Millions of times better off investing in geothermal after Fukushima. Hell yeah, Dana. Anthropogenic radiation in the body. So your body is under siege from the radiation for the rest of your life. Radiation pulses energy at the speed of light every second. It wrecks chromosomes and DNA cells, lesions in your organs. It's hideous every second. Your body tries to repair it every second, but white blood cells can't do that. And it has to attack the source for the rest of your life with white blood cells, eventually build a tumor around it. And then James got something along that line, or something about that process, I think he was suggesting. Because that's my normal narrative, right? Have a great night. Have a great day tomorrow. Hugs for everybody. Extra hugs for James. Bless your heart. We'll catch you tomorrow night. I'll be back tomorrow night. Hell or high water. If not, there's something wrong. Take care.
Ordinary channels. Exposure extends through human routine. Nothing withheld, everything procedural. Contained and defined as consistency. The body follows instruction, interprets injury as correction. Official language often stows. Consent replaced by form. Inside, replication shifts, structure adapts to remain acceptable. Anthropogenic radiation in the body. Manufactured, administered, maintained. The industry names it sustainable. The bloodstream names it change. Circulation carries memory through tissue. Organs redefine their limits quietly. Repair signals lose coordination, creating balance from fatigue. Immunity repeats the same condition, naming dysfunction as survival. There is no safe background, only thresholds revised after the fact. Each generation inherits adjustment. Health becomes the art of seeming stable, while functions quietly decline. Anthropogenic radiation in the body. Regulated, internal, complete. The industry calls it advancement. The evidence calls it defeat. Adaptation Reported successful. Observation continues without end. Condition, ongoing remission withheld. Anthropogenic radiation in the body.